I cared.
Let me ask
Oh,
you
yeah,
this.
yeah.
What was going to say? So me and Coney had a conversation on this show recently, and we were referencing when like a comment that Tony Khan had made in the past, where he was saying we're not going to make the same mistakes that WCW made. Like
Oh,
he's made a lot of comments that I'm offended with you for like a lot of the comments he made, like especially like when Meltzer said like Tony Khan, oh he's way smarter than Eric Bischoff and stuff, and that just gets me right.
well, he
So we're
might be,
talking,
by the way. That doesn't
yeah,
take
but
much.
but right, but I'm just saying this was a conversation I want to have with you. I find it interesting that they're in second place right now by a wider margin than previously, right? And they say they don't want to make the same mistakes, and everything, but the one thing that WWE and you always capitalized on is when there was legitimate heat and we turned it into business. You and Flair, you turned it to business. Brett and Vince, everything. There's so many missed opportunities that AEW is passing by to take like real life heat and not capitalizing on it at all, to the point they're almost ignoring it, don't want to talk about it, nobody discusses it. Somebody that's like it just evaporates into the air. It's like you had a spot here, and it's like it's happened a lot of times. What's your take on that?
Well, I mean, it's complicated because in order, Rick, I'm going to use Ric Flair and I because I kind of have an inside track on that one. It involved me.
Right,
A little.
right,
I don't have to call it from the sidelines. I didn't want to be. I didn't want. I liked Rick. We had always been friends. Our kids hung out together at Disney MGM Studios. We partied together. We had fun together, and then to end up in kind of a head-to-head, pretty ugly, very public, legal situation with someone that I considered a friend was not a pleasant experience at all. And when it was over, I still respected Rick. I still wanted to work with Rick. And I think Rick, once he got over his issues to the degree that he did, I think he still is. I think he still holds on to some of it, and that's okay. He's got his reasons. But at that point, once it was over, we both looked at each other and went, all right, what do we do? Pretend it didn't happen, or let's have some fun? We had fun. But that's chemistry and willingness and trust to a degree. Because now we have to take all of that real life heat, repackage it, throw a bit of gasoline on it, and hit it with a blowtorch every Monday night for a couple of weeks when the issues are still a little bit raw. But I think for us at that time, that made the most sense for both of us. I think now, and especially for Tony, look, he's still new at this. I say he's learning on the job, just like I did, by the way, in many respects. I was learning on the job, and so is Tony. I think Tony has a greater aversion to real heat than I did, or I do. I love heat. I'll run into the fire, and especially if I can make money doing it. I'll seek out fire if I can make money at it. Whereas I think Tony, and I've heard this from a number of people, I don't know if it's true, but based on what I see on television, which is not a lot of real heat, maybe he just wants everybody to be loved and have fun. I don't know.
That's impossible.
Oh, of course.
He wants to look at the world through rose-colored glasses. Nobody talk bad about promotion. Nobody criticize, bro. Anybody that's in any form of entertainment or content or anything, you're privy to criticism. If not, get off social media or go hide in a closet somewhere. Not everybody's gonna like you, and that's a part of life. But I just found it very weird because, for example, like when you had your heat, you challenged Vince McMahon to a fight. Okay, the guy supposedly, from what I understand, I don't know if you know more about this than me. I guess the only reason he didn't go is he had to go to a wedding or something like that.
Stephanie was graduating from college on that day, which was a Sunday, which I find really interesting. I don't know how many people have college ceremonies.
Right, but he's like you. He likes weed. You know what I'm saying? Like, but you know what I'm saying? Like Vince is like you. He likes heat. He welcomes heat. You know what I'm saying?
Vince likes to fight. Vince is a fighter.
Right. So like Tony, when I was reading that the Young Bucks were saying, "Oh, we got NBA level contracts," I was like, well, why didn't Tony, before he gave those NBA level contracts, sit them down with Punk and everybody involved and said, before I give you these massive raises and you stay as executive vice presidents and you have your own dressing room and all the perks that you have, okay, you guys are going to sit down and you're going to do business. You know what I'm saying? And let's take advantage of this.
Well, again, that's a strong leadership role, because you're kind of telling everybody what you want them to do because they
Right.
work for you.
Right.
And that's not always easy, particularly when there's
Nowadays,
real
it isn't
personal
always
issues there.
easy.
But the only way that you get there is by taking a firm leadership role. And I don't know I don't know what Tony's leadership style is or isn't.
But would you disagree with this, Eric? I just feel, because even like when you had a problem with Eddie back in the day, you guys fixed it and you turned it into an angle. I think back in our day, we were more willing to put things aside for the betterment of the business, where now your feelings matter more than the business does. That's kind of what I get.
And again, there's an example. I was on the inside track on that one.
Yeah.
We had a moment. We had heat.
Right.
And we both
Right.
recognized that we were probably both wrong.
Right.
We both handled it the wrong way. All right. Well, now what? Let's have
Right.
fun. I mean,
Right.
it's how do you take
That's
it?
my point.
Are you going to carry that around for the rest of your life and hold a grudge and not do business?
Right.
Or are you going to look in the mirror and go, yeah, I could have fucked up that and I could have handled that better. And all right, now that I admit that, let's go make some money. It's just how you approach it.
Right. I just think that anytime you got it, I've always thought that the most interesting storylines are in the dressing room. And when you bring them to the forefront, especially if people kind of know about it, it takes on an extra sort of dimension or gravitas. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, it does. And like Disco was saying earlier, there's been, the MJF meltdown, that was one that could have gone somewhere creatively. Now they patched it up and now they're working together. They're collaborating. MJA's off on it. He's on his own rocket ship. He's doing really well. He's got an extremely bright future. That ended very well for both Tony and MJF, but they chose not to use it as a creative platform. Okay.
Right.
That's fine. I would have done it differently, but it turned out good. So who am I to criticize? On the other hand, the CM Punk thing and the Buck thing, that unfortunately for everybody, including the fans, was a huge, I don't want to say missed opportunity, because there's no opportunity there if the people involved aren't of the mindset, for whatever reason, to look at themselves and each other and go, okay, we could have handled that better. Now let's move on and make some money. Or no, I don't want to. It's just how you do it. It's where your head's at. And I think your self-confidence to a degree.
Yeah. Plus, like I said, you miss the potential for a surge in the business, which is good for the fans and everybody,
And you know what else it does?
Yeah.
It makes it a lot easier for everybody to get over it. Right.
Right. And
I
here's
mean,
the
Ric
worst
Flair-
part of all.
Ric Flair and I
Right.
went from arguing and fighting and, saying horrible things about each other to turning it into an angle and then having a beer afterwards. That's a good outcome.
And
By the
here's
time
worst part,
you
Eric.
and
Here-
go ahead.
let me just finish this real
Yeah,
quick, Joe.
Mhm.
So the most important thing to me is that the fans miss out, because I had a wrestler a day before the biggest show of the year try to pull out, right? And I was like, bro, you could be mad at AAA, you could be mad at me, you could be mad at this guy, but don't take it out on the fans.
Right.
They this is, thank God he did it. But the fans are the ones that are missing out on this great new different thing that could, help in the ratings. What were you saying, Joe?
So the thing with Flair, I mean, the fans and the wrestling media, whatever, became aware of it mostly when Flair didn't show up at that Thunder in April, and he was away from the company till his return in September. You guys got in the ring in December at Starrcade. So some time had passed. Did you have any concerns getting in the ring with Rick that it might turn into, we might have to throw a couple of real punches here?
No.
No.
That's where the trust comes in.
Right.
I have never, ever been in a situation. Now I've outside of the building, there's been a time or two I may have seen my life pass before my eyes for a brief second. But, once I stepped to I absolutely 110% trusted Rick. I wouldn't have, the thought of something stupid happening would never have even entered my mind to think about how I would react to it if it did.
Mm.
Same was true with Steve Austin. Look at all the supposed heat Steve and I had.
Right.
No.
And what didn't Steve say something to you before you guys went out to the ring where basically he was giving you the heads up, like, I got to throw him, I'm going to be throwing some steam at you. Yeah.
Oh, I knew that. He didn't have to tell me. I'd
Yeah.
watched him work for quite a while.
Right. Yeah.
Right.